Detroit, early 2000s. Bodies of women began turning up. In alleyways and abandoned buildings, places where the light never reached. And each scene looked disturbingly the same. Beaten to death, sexually assaulted, their lifeless bodies left sprawled, like a twisted message from someone watching in the dark. He was homeless, invisible. He approached women with a simple request, then turned into a monster with a brick or a stick in hand. His name was Shelly Andre Brooks. And this is the blood-soaked story of a serial killer who terrorized Detroit for 5 years until one victim lived and told the world who he really was. Classification, serial killer characteristics, rape number of victims, 7 date of murders, 2001, 2006, date of arrest, July 30th, 2006, date of birth, January 26, 1999, victims profile, Sandra Davis, 53, Pamela Greer, 33, Marion Woods Daniels, 36, Rhonda Miles, 45, Thelma Johnson, odd, Melissa Toston, 38, an unidentified woman, method of murder, beating with rocks or sticks, location, Detroit, Michigan, USA, status, sentenced to life in prison without parole on March 27, 2007. Serial killer of prostitutes gets another 25-plus years. September 6, 2000. A convicted serial killer already serving life in prison was sentenced today to another 25 to 50 years behind bars for raping and beating a prostitute who survived his usually deadly attacks. The formality in Wayne Circuit Court closes the case on Shelly Andre Brooks, a homeless man whom authorities believe killed at least 7 prostitutes between August 2001 and June 2006. Investigators have said he may have killed another 7 women, though no charges were filed in those deaths. His latest legal case was the one that led police to catch him at all. In June 2006, Brooks followed his familiar routine of raping prostitutes, beating them with rocks or sticks, and leaving them for dead. His last victim slipped into a coma but survived the attack. She described her attacker as unusually tall and knew him as E. The name was just one of several Brooks used, but the description led police to arrest him when he entered an abandoned building in July 2000. Police said Brooks eventually confessed to the slangs, even offering one they didn't know about. Suspected serial killer sentenced to life without parole. March 29, 2007. Shelly Brooks, who police said is a suspected serial killer, was sentenced to life in prison without parole by Judge Vonda Evans on Thursday, Local 4 reported. Brooks testified that he had sex with several prostitutes, but did not kill them, and said in court that Detroit police officers threatened him into signing a confession that said he bludgeoned several prostitutes to death. Brooks was charged with first-degree murder in the slayings of prostitutes from 1999 to 2005. Suspected serial killer convicted a second time of murder. March 16, 2000. Wayne County jurors took only 30 minutes to convict suspected serial killer Shelly Brooks of first-degree murder today, his second conviction in 8 days. Viction. Brooks, 38, of Detroit, was convicted in the bludgeoning death of Rhonda Miles, who was found bludgeoned to death in an abandoned building on Detroit's east side in April 2002. A sentencing date has not been set. Last week, he was convicted in the beating death of Pamela Greer. He will be sentenced March 22nd in the Greer case. 2 life sentences, already no parole. He's not getting out, said Detroit Police Office Mike Carlisle, a homicide investigator who worked the serial killings. Once again, we got a conviction against a serial killer. Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor Robert Moran said DNA evidence and a confession from Brooks gave prosecutors a strong case. That's one of the quickest verdicts I've ever had, said Moran, who has been prosecuting for 13 years. Brooks is charged with first-degree murder in the killings of 5 other prostitutes and the rape of a surviving woman. We'll probably come back and make a decision on which other cases to try after he's been sentenced, Moran said. The woman testified that on June 26th, she and Brooks had sex and smoked crack cocaine inside an abandoned garage, then went to an abandoned house to smoke more crack. She said Brooks then sexually assaulted her and struck her with a brick. Suspected serial killer convicted of murdering prostitute. March 16, 2007. A man described by police as one of the most prolific serial killers in the city's history was convicted Thursday of murdering a prostitute. It was the second murder conviction in 8 days for Shelly Brooks, 38, of Detroit. He also faces first-degree murder charges in the slayings of 5 other prostitutes dating back to 2001. A jury deliberated only 30 minutes Thursday before finding Brooks guilty in the bludgeoning death of Rhonda Miles, whose body was found in April 2002. A sentencing date was not immediately set. DNA evidence and a confession from Brooks gave prosecutors a strong case in Miles' death. Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor Robert Moran said, "We'll probably come back and make a decision on which other cases to try after he's been sentenced," Moran told the Detroit Free Press. Brooks was convicted March 7th in the 2002 slaying of Pamela Greer, 33. He faces mandatory life in prison with no chance of parole when he is sentenced March 22nd in that case. All the victims died of blunt force trauma from objects such as cement blocks and a table leg, and their bodies were found in abandoned buildings or vacant fields. A surviving victim testified that in June 2006 she smoked crack with Brooks, who then sexually assaulted her and struck her with a brick. He faces rape and assault charges in her case. Police suspect Brooks may be responsible for the killings of 7 other prostitutes in a murder spree that began in 1999. Serial killer suspect Shelly Andre Brooks convicted in Detroit, March 08, 2007. In August of 2001, the body of Sandra Davis, 53, was found at 9700 St. Paul in Detroit, Michigan. She had been struck in the head repeatedly and then dragged into a closet where she was left to die. January 22, 2002, the body of Pamela Greer, 33, was found in the same building as Davis, as well as the same condition. April 14, 2002, Marion Woods, Daniels, 36, was found at 4904 Crane St., her head bashed in by blows from a brick. April 22, 2002, the body of Rhonda Miles, 45, was found in a vacant building located at 1382 Manistee. She had been beaten to death with the leg of a wooden chair. November 05, 2002, the body of Thelma Johnson, 30, was found at Mack and Holcomb. She, like the others, had been beaten to death. October 18, 2005, the body of Melissa Toston. Inside of a vacant garage located between Chalmers St. and Flanders St., she was beaten to death with a cement object. June 5, 2006. The body of an unidentified woman is found at 2646 Harding. Cause of death is strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head. 7 deaths between the time frame of August 2001 and June 2000. All of the victims had been black prostitutes with a history of drug abuse. They were all killed by blunt trauma to the head. Each woman was found in either abandoned buildings or a vacant lot with their clothes draped over their nude bodies, their legs left in a wide-open position. July 26, 2006, a 45-year-old prostitute is attacked and left to die near Hickory and Lyndhurst. Miraculously surviving the attack, she gives police a description of her attacker, and she identifies Shelly Andre Brooks as the man who had beaten and raped her. On July 26, 2006, Brooks is held on $75,000 bond. DNA evidence from the other victims link Brooks to 4 more murders. Wednesday, March 07, 2007, Shelly Andre Brooks was found guilty of first-degree murder in the 2002 murder of 33-year-old Pamela Greer. In Michigan, the charge carries an automatic sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Brooks is scheduled to be sentenced March 22, 2007. Brooks then will be standing trial next week for the death of Rhonda Miles from April 2002. He also faces murder charges of the other 5 women killed. Investigator Mike Carlisle of the homicide section stated, "It's a relief that we got the first conviction out of the way. This certainly clears the way for the rest of the trials coming up. It's a relief to the family of Pamela Greer, certainly, and we are going to continue to get that satisfaction for the rest of the families. It is a relief to have this predator of the streets." Convicted Shelly Andre Brooks. March 7, 2007. Shelly Andre Brooks was convicted Wednesday of first-degree murder in the 2002 strangulation death of Pamela Greer. The jury took 10 hours to reach their verdict, which means that Brooks now faces a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Greer, 33, was a prostitute whose body was found strangled and raped in an abandoned building. He also stands accused in the deaths of 6 other women. The trial for these cases starts next week. Brooks' victims reveal signature. 29 September 2006. As is so many times the case, the victims of a killer tell a story. The same has held true for the 7 victims of a serial killer in Detroit, MI. All victims were black prostitutes who had a history of drug abuse. Each victim was killed by multiple blunt force head trauma with weapons ranging from a brick cement block table leg and a garage door handle. All of the women were found in abandoned buildings or vacant lots, either naked or with clothes draped over their nude bodies. Their legs were left in the spread eagle position. Shelly Andre Brooks, a 37-year-old man who spent the last 10 years living on the streets or in his cousin's basement, has been charged with 7 counts of premeditated murder and 6 counts of felony murder. The unchanging method by which each victim was killed lends itself to the fact that a serial killer was most likely responsible for these deaths. The police have forensic evidence that links Brooks to 4 of the cases, and the circumstantial evidence, including the manner of their death and where they were left, helped them be able to charge him in all the murders. This is indeed the mark of the serial killer. The repetitive nature of the murders with almost no changes would clearly seem to indicate the same man was responsible. Brooks charged with 7 murders. September 2006. Shelly Andre Brooks is charged with murdering 7 prostitutes on Detroit's east side. Officers have said Brooks confessed to the killings. A man at Brooks' former home on Garland Street, who identified himself only as Brooks' brother-in-law, disputed the allegations, saying Brooks wasn't like that. He said Brooks' mother was hospitalized in part because of the stress on the family over the accusations. She could not be reached for comment. Background. At the age of 14, Brooks' mother left him with his maternal grandmother while she moved in with a boyfriend. By 11th grade, he had dropped out of high school. Around the same time, he had his first brush with the law when he was found carrying a concealed gun. He served 60 days and after his release began living on the streets. It appears he had been homeless for the better part of a decade until his arrest earlier this year. Brooks found a series of jobs at restaurants and a laundromat but would eventually lose each one due to run-ins with coworkers. Timeline: August 31, 2001, Sandra Davis, 53, found at 9700 St. Paul. According to Brooks' confession, she agreed to trade sex for money with Brooks in an abandoned apartment building on St. Paul. He became angry at her and wanted his money back. When she tried to leave, he struck her in the head repeatedly until she collapsed, then dragged her into a closet. Davis's decomposed remains were not found until August 31, 2001. Jan 22, 2002, Pamela Greer, 33, found in the same building. A man cleaning asbestos from the same building discovered Pamela Greer, 33, whose body wasn't found until a stray dog had eaten her right leg. April 14, 2002, Marion Woods Daniels, 36, found at 4804 Crane. Marion Woods Daniels, 36, was killed with a brick to her head in an alley on Crane Street. She tried to run off with money for a sex act, Brooks allegedly told the police. April 22, 2002, Rhonda Miles, 45, found at 1382 Manistee. Rhonda Miles, 45, was found in a vacant building on Manistee, apparently beaten to death with the leg of a wooden chair. Brooks' DNA was found on the weapon. May 2002, police ticketed Brooks in May 2002 for entering a building without permission, but did not consider a suspect in the slayings. November 5, 2002, Thelma Johnson, 30, found at Mack and Holcomb. A person walking near Mack and Holcomb found the body of 30-year-old Thelma Johnson. Brooks allegedly told police he hit her in the head a couple of times. October 18, 2005, Melissa Toston, 38, found at Chalmers in Flanders. Melissa Toston, 38, was found in a vacant garage on Flanders about 4 days after she died. Brooks later said he hit her with a cement object, cut his hand, and searched her purse for money. June 5, unidentified victim at 2646 Harding. The body of a still unidentified woman was found on Harding about 1,000 feet from the house where Brooks' grandmother raised him. Brooks allegedly said he wanted his money back from the woman and choked her to death. A neighbor reported hearing screams in the night about 3 weeks earlier. June 26th, a woman survives a rape and beating near Hickory and Lyndhurst. Brooks allegedly raped and beat another prostitute in the head and left her to die. She survived, and after she recovered from her coma, described her attacker as tall and known as E. Carlisle said. Confronted with DNA evidence that police said tied him to the slayings, Brooks admitted the crimes, Carlisle said. He never cried, Carlisle said. He never showed remorse. One person reported to be a psychiatrist who has studied serial killers made the point that generally they are able to function on a level more normal than Brooks. It is strange that he would have been homeless for what appears to be such a long period of time, but I am sure it is not unheard of. The crimes themselves seem to indicate a more disorganized type than many of the more famous serial killers. He seemed to bring his victims to a secluded area, kill them, and then leave them there, not making a great effort at hiding the bodies. Most were found by passers-by or folks who located them without having to search a great deal. One of the hallmarks of the disorganized killer is that he does not create separate scenes for the initial contact attack and body disposal. In Brooks' case, it would appear this held true since he undoubtedly led them to the vacant buildings, killed them, and left them there. He also did not appear to take any of the stereotypical trophies that are associated with more organized serial killers who take jewelry, body parts, and other mementos with them so they can relive the thrill of the kill again and again. Brooks seemed to merely become enraged, attacked, and then left them there be. As we see from the information released from his confession, he would get angry at these women for various reasons because they refused his advances or he felt they were trying to cheat him, and he was attacked. This would also help explain why others do not believe him capable of doing such horrific acts. If there is no triggering event, Shelly Brooks is probably a mild-mannered and quiet man. But when provoked, he quickly becomes belligerent. This also would not have been something he would have done with what he viewed as a stronger person, either another male or a confident female. I am not sure if the conclusion that he was attacking these women because they reminded him of the mother who abandoned him is a valid reason for explaining his murders. To me, it seems more likely that these were women he viewed as weak enough and lowly enough that he could approach without fear of rejection. They were prostitutes and also described as the type who begged for cigarettes. This means they probably would not turn down any opportunity for a few dollars. Police also said that Brooks was proud of the fact that he had survived on the streets for as long as he did. It probably was a point of pride, however misplaced, that he was able to handle being homeless for almost a decade, something many of us could never handle for more than a few days or weeks at the most. This is a man whose self-esteem and abilities to interact with the world around him were severely limited. He could not work with anyone and probably felt that everyone looked down on him for being homeless, no matter how successful he believed himself. And when one of these women whom he considered even lower than himself would try to either condemn him or take advantage of him, he would lash out with vicious anger. Detroiter charged in slaying of 7 prostitutes. August 29, 2000. Detroit. A man was charged Tuesday in the slayings of 7 prostitutes in Detroit between 2001 and June of this year. Shelly Andre Brooks faces 7 counts of premeditated murder and 7 counts of felony murder. The 37-year-old Detroit resident faces a sentence of life in prison without parole if convicted of any of the counts. Brooks remains a suspect in the deaths of 7 other prostitutes. Detroit Police Chief Ella Bully Cummings said the other 7 killings were very similar, but she declined to comment further. Police said all 7 of the women Brooks is accused of killing were drug users and ranged in age from 30 to 53. All were raped and killed by blunt force trauma. Their bodies were found on the city's east side, some in buildings and others in vacant lots. Brooks has been in custody since July 30th and was being held in connection with a sexual assault of a prostitute. He was to be arraigned later Tuesday on the murder charges. Man charged in deaths of 7 Detroit prostitutes. Suspect being investigated in 7 other very similar deaths, police say. Aug 29, 2006. Detroit. A man suspected of killing 7 prostitutes over the past 5 years was charged with murder Tuesday, and police said he is a suspect in as many as 14 deaths in the city since 1999. Shelly Andre Brooks is charged with 7 counts of premeditated murder and 7 counts of felony murder. The 37-year-old Detroit resident could face life in prison if convicted. The 7 victims ranged in age from 30 to 53 and were drug users, police said. All were raped, beaten to death, and their bodies were left on the city's east side, some in buildings, others in vacant lots. Brooks, in custody since July 30th in connection with the sexual assault of a prostitute, was to be arraigned Tuesday on the murder charges. Detroit Police Chief Ella Bully Cummings said he also remains a suspect in the deaths of 7 other prostitutes' killings that she described as very similar. Bully Cummings said the string of slayings began in 1999. She said DNA evidence connects Brooks to many of the cases. The victim of the June rape and beating also provided police with a description. "We really do not believe that he would have stopped until he was caught," Bully Cummings said at a news conference. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy said authorities believe Brooks' difficult childhood may help explain the motives in the killings. She said Brooks' mother, who no longer is alive, was a drug addict and that he was abused as a child. "He really was killing his mother all over again," Worthy said. The victims are Sandra Davis, 53, Pamela Greer, 33, Marion Woods Daniels, 36, Rhonda Miles, 45, Thelma Johnson, 30, and Melissa Toston, 38. A 7th victim was identified only as Jane Doe because her body was too decomposed to identify. The bodies of Davis and Greer were found nearly 5 months apart in the same abandoned apartment building.